My name is Ethan Ward, 34 years old, a documentary photographer based in Denver. I used to think the craziest thing I ever did was trek into a Saharan sandstorm just to get the perfect shot. But no, the craziest thing I ever did was agree to attend my mother-in-law's birthday dinner. Evelyn Prescott. A woman who walks like she owns the world, polished, powerful, and dangerous. The very first time we met, she shook my hand like she was picking up something cheap from the ground. Cold. Dismissive. Polite, but just barely. I love her daughter, Lila, brilliant, brave, a fierce environmentalist. She saw something in me no one else did. But love doesn't make you immune to contempt. That night, Evelyn handed me a deep red cocktail. A special one, just for my favorite son-in-law, she said, with a smile so forced it made the hairs on my neck stand up. But I saw it. The way her eyes flicked around the kitchen before she poured something, from a tiny glass vial, into the drink. Her hand trembled just slightly, but enough. I didn't say a word. I just walked in, picked up the 2 glasses, and quietly swapped them. I placed the special drink in front of Arthur, her husband. And then I started counting down the minutes. 45 minutes later, hell opened its door. Arthur, my father-in-law, the man who used to ask me if photography had a retirement plan, was now pale, clutching his stomach, staggering toward the bathroom like his insides were on fire. The sounds coming from behind that door echoed through the luxury mountain lodge. Evelyn froze. Her eyes darted between me and the hallway like a cornered animal. She knew. I knew. But I didn't say a word. I took a sip of water, set my glass down, and calmly watched the chaos unfold. Lila rushed after her mother, panicked. He probably just had some bad shrimp, Evelyn stammered. Maybe a reaction, it's nothing, really. A reaction? Or the side effect of her special recipe? Later that night, when the house was finally quiet, I took the untouched cocktail glass Evelyn had given me, the one I never drank, and wrapped it carefully in a padded bag. The next morning, I brought it to an old friend of mine, a forensic chemist. "What exactly are we looking for?" he asked. "Whatever it was," I said, "that my mother-in-law thought I wouldn't notice." 3 days later, I got the call. "Ethan," he said, "it tested positive for benzodiazepines. Not enough to kill someone, but enough to knock you out for hours. Or cause temporary memory loss." I stared at the report. My fingers tightened around the paper. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a move. A message. And I wasn't about to play their game. No. I was going to end it. Quietly. Precisely. My way. I've faced danger before, wild predators, avalanches, even armed guards in war zones. But this time, the threat wasn't hiding in the jungle. It was sitting across from me at the dinner table. So I started digging. Quietly. Carefully. I looked into Evelyn's past, the woman who smiled at Lila like an angel and looked at me like a stain she couldn't scrub out. And the deeper I went, the uglier it got. First red flag, Evelyn had active prescriptions for benzodiazepines from 3 different doctors. 3. And she'd been doubling her doses for years. Second, a former employee from her charity had once hinted at something weird Evelyn slipped into her tea. That employee was later fired for insubordination. Coincidence? Maybe once. But I wasn't here for maybes. I kept going, tracked whispers at her country club. One woman told me Evelyn hosted a cocktail party, and afterward, a priceless necklace went missing. No proof. No charges. Just another name added to a growing list of people who stopped trusting Evelyn Prescott. Still, it wasn't enough. And then, I got an email. No sender. No subject line. Just 2 words. Watch this. Attached was a security camera video, timestamped from Evelyn's kitchen, the night of her birthday dinner. There she was, pouring something into a cocktail glass, tucking the vial away. Then I walked in. Swapped the glasses. And then came the footage from upstairs, Evelyn and Arthur arguing. You said you'd never do this again. Arthur shouted. If you ever hurt Lila. I watched it 3 times. My jaw clenched. This wasn't a one-time incident. It was a pattern. A weapon she used. Over and over. And for the first time, I realized. Maybe I wasn't the first person she tried to erase. I invited everyone over for dinner. Evelyn. Arthur. Lila's younger brother Matt and his wife, Claire. Lila thought I was just trying to make peace after everything that had happened. But peace wasn't what I was serving. While the roast was in the oven and wine was being poured, I walked over to the TV and plugged in a flash drive. The screen lit up. The room fell quiet. Before we eat, I said, there's something I think everyone should see. The video started rolling. There was Evelyn, in the kitchen, pouring liquid from a small vial into a cocktail glass. Then came me, walking in. Swapping the glasses. Then Arthur, drinking. Then the sound. The video switched to a second camera, upstairs, in their bedroom. Arthur shouting. You promised you'd never do this again. If you ever hurt Lila. Evelyn shot up from her chair. Turn that off. Enough. I looked her in the eye. Calm. Not yet. Next came a voice recording, my chemist friend's report. The cocktail tested positive for benzodiazepines. Not lethal, but enough to sedate or disorient someone for several hours. Matt froze. Claire covered her mouth. Lila turned to me, her voice trembling. Is this real? I nodded. I wasn't going to show you any of this. But they went too far. The silence that followed was suffocating. Evelyn stuttered. We can explain. Lila, honey. But Lila stood up. Her face was pale, but her voice steady as a blade. Explain, she snapped. You almost drugged my husband. You smile like nothing's wrong, but this isn't the first time, is it? Arthur still hadn't spoken. But he looked away, and that told me everything. I looked back at the screen. At least the main course is truth. And in that moment, dinner was over. And so was the illusion. After that dinner, Evelyn disappeared from all family events. Arthur sent one message, short, cold. I hope you understand. Every family has its boundaries. Oh, I understood. Their only boundary was not getting caught. Lila didn't speak for 3 days. She didn't cry. Didn't argue. She just sat by the window, holding her tea long after it went cold. I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, with grief. Not for me, but for the version of her mother she thought was real. Do you think she ever really loved me? She asked softly, like the words might break in her mouth. I couldn't answer. I didn't want to say no. But I wouldn't lie either. That night, I made a choice. I would finish this. Not with rage, but with precision. I reached out to Vanessa, Matt's ex-wife. They split years ago after Evelyn relentlessly pushed her out. She met me at a quiet cafe. I couldn't take it anymore, she whispered. She said, I would never be Prescott enough. Then she slid a small black USB drive across the table. There's a recording, she said. Evelyn threatened my mother. Told her she'd cut me out of the bloodline. This is who she's always been. Why now? I asked. Vanessa smiled, bittersweet. Because you're the first one who didn't back down. I gathered every piece of evidence. The video, the prescriptions, the voice recordings, the whisper campaigns, the lies. All of it. I labeled the folder, Truth Vault. Then I scheduled a meeting. Just me. Evelyn and Arthur. Lila didn't come. She needed space. When I arrived, they were already waiting, stiff, silent, cold. I placed the hard drive on the table. I'm not here for an apology, I said. I'm here to set the rules. Evelyn smirked. You think you've won? Lila will never believe you over her family. I shrugged. She doesn't have to believe me. She just has to see you. Arthur crossed his arms. You're blackmailing us? No, I said calmly. I'm teaching you something you've never been taught. Truth doesn't scream. It waits. And then it strikes. I stood up. This ends now. No more manipulation. No more backroom poison. You stay away from my wife, our home, and our future. You're not family. You're a liability. As I walked out, I didn't slam the door. I didn't have to. Because for the first time in their lives, they were no longer in control. 3 weeks after that final meeting, an envelope arrived at our doorstep. No return address. Just my name in bold, gold lettering, Ethan Ward. Inside, the deed to the house we'd been renting, now legally ours, along with legal paperwork establishing a trust fund for our unborn child. No note. No apology. Just silence and surrender. It wasn't forgiveness. It was an admission. A quiet way of saying, we lost. Evelyn and Arthur hadn't changed. They simply realized they no longer held the leash. Lila sat on our porch that night, her hand resting gently on her growing belly. 3 months along. I used to think success meant making my parents proud, she whispered. Now I know it's about choosing what I believe in. Who I want beside me. I didn't say anything. I just held her hand. Months later, our daughter was born. We named her Alara after a distant star. Lila said she deserves a name that reminds her how far her light can reach. When Evelyn and Arthur came to the hospital, they brought flowers and gifts. But no advice. No lectures. No subtle digs. They stayed for 10 minutes, took a few photos, and left. It wasn't affection. It was respect. The only kind they were still capable of giving. Later that year, I opened a photography gallery downtown. The grand opening was packed: clients, friends, journalists, and them. Evelyn stood in the corner, staring at my work. Landscapes I'd risked my life to capture. Portraits of strength. Of survival. She didn't say a word. But her silence spoke louder than anything. At the end of the night, Arthur shook my hand. Didn't think you'd make it this far, he admitted. I smiled. That's because you were too busy trying to block my path. To see that I was building my own. I didn't win by screaming. I didn't win by stooping to their level. I won by stepping out of their game entirely. I built a life. A family. A future. Not with their approval, but with my own. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well. On your own terms. With the people who never needed to be convinced. Because they always believed in you. Some people enter your life just to control it. Some smiles hide cages. And some families use love like a weapon. But here's the truth. You weren't born to be accepted. You were born to become yourself, whether they approve or not. Ethan didn't win by striking back. He won by standing firm. By refusing to bend just to fit someone else's definition of enough. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't pain. It's peace. So ask yourself, who's been writing your story? Whose approval have you been chasing at the cost of your voice? If this story made you think, share it. Not for views. Not for likes. But because someone out there needs the reminder. Living your truth is the boldest move you'll ever make. And if you're already on that journey, don't stop. You're not alone. Drop a comment. What's one boundary you'll never let anyone cross again? Let's grow louder, not with noise, but with clarity, courage, and truth.